Alright, what's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Crypt13 and today I want to do a quick video showcasing some Childe team comps. Hopefully these will give you some ideas on what kinds of different team comps you can run for Childe. And I just wanted to talk about the pros and cons and which ones are my favorite. So let's get right into it. The first Childe team comp that we can go for is a Pyro Enabler comp. This team comp is probably what every single person and their mother and grandmother is probably running if they have a child. We throw on a Xiangling and a Bennett and then an Animo character. If you have Kazuha, he's definitely going to be one of the best. And just allow Xiangling to deal so much vaporized damage on the team. But this doesn't mean that Childe isn't also doing damage, because he's also outputting a ton of damage as well. The reason why this team works so great, and the reason why this is one of my favorite team comps, is because Childe applies Hydro so quickly that he enables Xiangling to vaporize every single hit of her Pyronado. Every single hit of the Pyronado that hits an enemy is going to cause a vaporize reaction, allowing you to deal 2.5 times more damage. However, Childe also gets a chance to vape his elemental burst, and he gets a 2 times damage bonus when he vapes using Hydro as the trigger element. Bennett is here just because he gives us tons of extra attack, boosting our power even further. And then Kazuha is here because he shreds the resistances of both Hydro and Pyro, and then gives extra damage bonus. Another reason why I like this composition so much is because you can build Childe's artifacts with a decent amount of freedom. For example, we don't really have to run the 4-piece Heart of Depth here. We can definitely go with a 2-piece Heart of Depth, 2-piece Gladiator or Shiminawa, or even a 2-piece Heart of Depth with 2-piece Noblesse Oblige. This is because we can get such large damage out of our elemental bursts. Kazuha can definitely be replaced by any other Animo character, but Kaz is definitely going to give us the most damage and crowd control. He's going to group the enemies up so close together that it really helps Childe get his Riptide damage off. Your Pyro characters probably shouldn't change, because these two 4-star Pyro characters are undisputably the best to run here. The second team that I have here is an Electro Taser team comp, and this is definitely my second favorite team, and I was actually very surprised at how well it was doing. There are so many elements flying around with this comp that it's really hard to tell which character is triggering a reaction. When I slow down the footage, it looks like there's an Electro aura on the enemies most of the time, but we can see many different kinds of Electro charge numbers popping up. This means that not just one character is causing that reaction. I can sometimes see 2899 and other times I see 3390. So definitely at least 2 different characters are triggering the Electro charge reaction. Childe is definitely one of them because we can see an Electro aura, and so this does mean that a high level Childe will be getting stronger Electro charge reactions. As for the other character, who knows? It's really hard to tell, but it does mean that higher levels means more Electro charge damage. However, this comp is not as flexible with the artifact set as it was with the Vaporize set, because this one definitely relies on 4-piece Heart of Depth more, because we don't get a large burst vape at the start of our rotation, whereas with the Vape one, we definitely got that. So most of Childe's damage is going to come from his normal attacks and the Riptide damage. Again, Kazuha here is just the best Animo support character we can ask for. He gives lots of shred and a bunch of damage bonus. This team also has tons of good AoE because Electro Charge is going to jump between a bunch of opponents, and Beto's ultimate skill also chains between at least 3 enemies. Now, as for replacements here, you can definitely replace Kazuha with another Animo character that also heals, because obviously this team comp has no healer. So you'll definitely have to be on point with your iframes if you want to run this team. You could also probably replace either Beto or Fischl with someone like Raiden, but that's totally up to you. Beto and Fischl work pretty well, and it's a little bit more free-to-play friendly. I was able to clear Magu Kenki with this team in about the same amount of time with the Vaporize team comp, so surprisingly, at least to my surprise, this team is actually very, very effective, and that's why it's my second favorite here. The third team that I have for you guys is a Freeze team, and I do have to say that this is probably not the most effective team, although it is fun. It's only good against certain matchups. I do think that Coco Kokomi is a lot better at freeze comp because her hydro application is off field. It's definitely hard to keep the freeze up because Childe needs to be on the field in order to proc those freeze reactions. It's much easier with Kokomi because all you gotta do is set your E skill down, then swap into your cryo characters and let them freeze. AoE is a little bit more limited with this team because it's going to be based on the cryo characters that you use. So Rosaria's is an ultimate skill that is static. So if the enemies move out of position, then your AoE is no longer going to hit. But hopefully you have a crowd control character like Kazuha that can keep them in place. Speaking of Kazuha, the Animo character is here again for the elemental shred on cryo and hydro, and also to pull the enemies together so that you can capitalize on Childe's Riptide. You can definitely use other Animo characters as well, but you'll quickly find that it's not as effective as Kazuha because you need to find a way to position the enemies close enough so that they freeze all together in a group as well. The nice thing about the freeze is that it keeps them in place and allows Childe's Riptide to do lots of damage. The damage with the freeze comp is not very good against single target enemies unless your cryo characters are heavily invested into in terms of damage. Freeze isn't a damaging elemental reaction, so you just need pure damage and AoE in order to take advantage of the fact that the enemies are frozen. Very similar to the Taser comp, Childe is best built as a 4-piece Heart of Depth set here for similar reasons. A lot of Childe's damage is going to come from his normal attacks as opposed to his burst because you're not vaping it. As for replacements here, you can add in Kaya, Ganyu, or Chongyun. Whatever fills your needs. If you don't need a healer, you don't need Diona. If you feel confident in those iframes, then you can just put on as much cryo damage as you want. The last team that I got for you guys is a mono hydro team, and I do have to say this is my least favorite, and it also has a very high investment cost. There is not much AoE here besides Childe, and they need to be really close because Childe's Riptide doesn't have that large of an AoE. This means you'll need to be very conscious of your positioning or use a character like Kazuha to group enemies up. But this also means that if you're fighting enemies that can't be pulled in by Kazuha or Venti, then you might have a hard time. Childe is basically the main carry damage here unless you build your other hydro characters for a lot of damage. Those other hydro characters are probably going to be Xingqiu and Barbara. This is because Xingqiu gives you Hydro Resistance Shred with some of his constellations and abilities. Barbara also gives you a 15% Hydro damage bonus. So basically, we're just trying to enable Childe to do as much Hydro damage as possible. Animo is there for the same reason, to shred Hydro even further. Again, like all the other teams, Kazuo can be replaced by any other Animo character, but he will provide the most damage because he gives both shred and extra damage bonus. If you try this team, you'll also notice that downtime is a lot more noticeable, so please do be aware of that. Unless you are super on point with your rotations and cooldowns, you're definitely going to notice that your Childe is going to be in his bow mode a lot more than you want him to be. This composition also relies on the 4-piece Heart of Depth set for similar reasons to the other 3 team comps. Now, you can replace your Animo character for Zhongli if you have him, for extra defenses and some extra shred, although the shred is going to be less than using an Animo character with the 4-piece Viridescent Veneer set. The Hydro characters don't really change here. Really, your only options are Xingqiu and Barbara. I guess you can go Kokomi, but she doesn't really provide any damage bonuses to Childe, and her damage output is not great unless she's in her elemental burst mode. I gotta say that the more and more that I play with Childe and his team comps, the more and more I'm starting to see the appeal of this character. He's becoming definitely one of my favorite characters in Genshin Impact. Childe and Kazuha are also probably the 2 best friends in this game. They synergize so well with each other. And with my 2 favorite team comps, the Vape Enabler and the Electro Taser build, I was able to clear almost all of the floors in the Abyss in about a minute and a half, which leaves you with the same amount of time for your second team to clear their respective floor in the same amount of time. The demonstrations I used in the background footage of this video also isn't even the full potential of these characters. I haven't fully invested into a lot of them. You'll notice that a decent amount of them are only level 70, and their artifacts are also not that great. So this means that at their full potential, with more investment and better artifacts, you guys can definitely get even faster clears. So anyway guys, that's the end of my Childe video. I really do think Childe is a really strong character. And if you have been on the fence about picking him up, I would say that this is probably the time to pick him up. Unless you have been saving for a character that you absolutely love, then Childe is a very solid pick. He's got a lot of team comps that you can play with, and a lot of them only require 4-star characters. If you have a Kazuha, I definitely think you should pick up a Childe. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And you know, you should come check out the Twitch as well, because that's where I do most of the pre-work for these videos and a lot of the demonstrations that I have in my videos. Links to that is in the description below. And until next time, everybody, I will see you guys later.